Welcome to the Dream 100 Show, the epicenter of influence, collaboration, and exponential growth. You're about to discover the power of relationships. Dream 100 relationships. And you're one relationship away from a totally different business and life. This is your host, Michael Tesner.
Hey there, and welcome to this week's edition of the Dream 100 Show. I want to talk about this concept framework of a blue ocean. So this is not a new framework or a new concept, and it has been talked about through the book Blue Ocean Strategy, in my opinion, one of the top 10 business books ever written. But I wanted to expand on a couple of these areas, because what I've been finding over the last couple of weeks is that even though it's a fresh year, new energy, people are falling rapidly back into their old habits. And I've been getting comments and emails of people saying things like, well, the market is dictating XYZ. Now, as the time of filming, we just put a bunch of tariffs, when I'm saying we, the United States, on a bunch of countries, and they're putting tariffs back on us. And I had a couple of questions through email of, well, what am I going to do now because my prices are going to be raised by 25%. This concept of blue ocean is about you building a business that is not necessarily simply untouchable, but a business that is in a completely different league than everyone else. And the best way that you can actually accomplish this is through marketing. You could have the exact same product, exact same service. Let's say that you do concrete and you're same exact service. You're doing the same thing as 10 other people in your local area. You can put in a concrete sidewalk, driveway, patio. Maybe you do a few things that are considered different, but most people in the concrete space, it's all very, very similar. They can do stamped concrete. They can add tints, so maybe a little bit of color. There's nothing that is unique that would put you in a different league than everyone else. So if your service or your product is exactly the same, how do you actually get to this whole blue ocean? And a blue ocean, if you haven't read the book, is simply about being in uncharted territories that are kind of uncontested. So if you think of a ship, your ship is over here, there's no one around you, blue oceans as far as the eye can see. Whereas on the other side of things, it would be considered a red ocean, which are meant to kind of simulate or connotate kind of bloodied waters because everyone is competing for the same market share. But if I get back to this notion of concrete, and you're saying, well, Michael, there's 10 other people in the area that do the same thing. Should I compete on price? The answer is no. I want you to actually leverage marketing to have your business in this blue ocean. So how would you actually go about building a blue ocean focused on marketing? So rather than worrying about all the other things that are going on in the universe, all the economy-related things and tariffs and products, and I'm not saying that you can completely ignore these external factors, but you need to focus on what can you actually control. And the best way that I have found that businesses can build this blue ocean is via storytelling. And actually kind of putting their marketing in a place where it paints you as a business that is completely different than the other 9 concrete companies in the area. Now, one thing that I definitely know that holds true about a lot of the home service industry businesses, not all of them, but if I were to make up a statistic on the fly, I would probably argue 90% or greater are run-of-the-mill home service stories, brands, etc., that they didn't necessarily pause and really intentionally think about their marketing. Now, the other 10% typically are bigger home service businesses that have been able to hire external marketing agencies that actually know what they're doing, hire branding firms, leverage a framework that I've talked a little bit about called Story Brand. Like, they've been able to do some of that because they've gotten extra cash, but they also have realized that they don't want to continue to compete for the $100 service calls versus all these other companies. Or if you're putting in a driveway and you're going to be quoting, let's call it $8,000, and everyone else is going to be between $7,000 and $10,000, so you've got all these different quotes. How do you then separate yourself? And it's through marketing, it's through your storytelling, it's being intentional. And for me, everything starts back at your foundational elements. So things like your website. I want you to take a look at your website and see, is your website different from everyone else? Is it actually telling a story? Is it calling out things that do make your business unique? Is it talking about why you got into the business, but having some unique elements? Is it talking a little bit about your family, how long you've been a staple in the community, for example? You need to start back at all the things that your prospects are seeing before they even get to you, before they reach out, before they email, before you go on an estimate. What are all of those touch points? And to me, these touch points represent one of the greatest opportunities to start to separate yourself from the pack. I've talked in the past about doing a 360 marketing audit, and that's where you're going through all of the different marketing aspects. For today, I want you to laser focus in on like 5. Your website being number 1. If you know that a website is more important than your office location, more important than how you answer the phone, more important than your business card, the quote, if you know that they're going to come to your website and read most of the content, would you put yourself in a league that's considered a blue ocean, or are you playing in that same territory as everyone else? So, well, Michael, we don't have any strong differentiating factors. We're a concrete company. Oh, okay. Pause and start to make a list of all of the different things that do make you unique, even though they might be considered small or trivial. Number 1, we are going to show up on time. We're going to make sure that we are not 1 minute late. That you're going to start to notice that there are little things that you think that everyone else might do, but as you start to put this list together, the list is going to get longer and longer and longer. And what I want you to do with that list then is start to look at which elements that you can start to build into your story. We're the concrete company that is never 1 minute late from starting a job. I wouldn't say ending a job because things could obviously go wrong, but maybe you have this promise that you're never 1 minute late. If your crew says they're going to be there at 8 o'clock, your crew will be there by 7:45. That you literally, whatever you say by way of time, your time is your bond. You might say, well, do people actually care about that? A, they definitely do, because most people have this stigma of home services and they hate they're going to show up between 10 and 4 o'clock and you're sitting around all day, you're waiting. And if you start to look at those little things and start to put those in a basket, you can now have your website start to tell a story. Now, obviously, whatever you're starting to promise and tell the story about, you have to make sure you're fulfilling. So if you say you're never a minute late and then you show up late for your estimate, game over. But it starts with looking at how you can just start to differentiate your business from everyone else. And if you feel like you don't have anything, I promise you that you do. I promise you. But it takes some time for you to actually reflect. And it's making that list, and I want you to make the list from start to finish. For example, I have another business that has nothing to do with marketing, education, teaching. It's actually kind of similar to concrete, but it's in the epoxy business. It's called Surfaceology. And there are a bunch of other companies that do what people think or refer to as epoxy garage floors or epoxy floors. And I could say, well, they're saying this, I'm saying this. Well, thankfully, They're more in tune with the actual delivery side of things. My mind is obviously on the marketing side of things. I have people that do all the delivery. I know how to do it as well. It's actually a lot of fun. But we were able to build a list to say, well, not all epoxy companies are created equal. So one of the things that we do not do is that we never dilute the product. So most people are buying the products from the same place. And what they actually end up doing is they dilute the product. So they might be saying you're going to have a strong garage floor. So they might say, well, it's not going to be able to be penetrated by water, for example. But if they're diluting the product, it's not actually an accurate statement. So we started to build our story around not all companies are created equal. And that started to resonate. We also created our story around this brand called Surfaceology, where we are studying surfaces to be able to figure out what are the best applications. And rather than being a one-trick pony like most of these companies are, we can actually offer like 8 different services on a garage floor, for example. And now most of these companies they're trying to compete on price, and they'll companies that they might try and do a garage floor for $2,000 or $1,000. And if they're doing $1,000, for example, they're not using material. They're going to like Home Depot or Lowe's, but that's a conversation for a different day. But I didn't want to get into this place where we were literally bidding against 5 other companies for the same type of garage. So we did it before by telling our story. We did it via the website. We did it via our email marketing. We did it via the text message reminders. We had a video that I shot talking about how most companies are not doing it the right way. How most companies are going to skip 3 or 4 steps. How while we're going to actually spend more money of our money and more of our time, you're going to be paying the same that you would pay with another vendor, but we're making less profit to give you a better product because we actually care that your end product is going to stand the test of time. And we do all this before we get out and do an estimate. Now, I know that I've talked a lot about the home services or the services industry. Well, how would you do this for a particular product if you had a product? It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. It all goes back to storytelling. Telling your story as to why your skin cream, for example, is unlike any other skin cream on the market. Your widget is not even just better, but why your entire company is different. There was this great company, and the name is escaping me this second, but they were on Shark Tank. They were pitching the equivalent of like stretch pants, and they got roasted, I think, by like Mark Cuban, and they went on to build a huge company by talking about their story. While we were on Shark Tank, we got roasted by Mark Cuban, but our product is better than anything else. And here's why. And it all was through this aspect of storytelling. So what are some other ways that you can leverage to completely differentiate yourself and stay in that blue ocean? The Dream 100 framework is at the core. If you have these strategic partnerships, strategic relationships with all the businesses, influencers, people that are in your industry, and your competitors do not, do you think that you're going to be in another league than everyone else? I would beg to say yes. If you're being endorsed or indirectly endorsed or having all these associations with these people because you've worked those relationships, that again puts you in another league than everyone else. If you're constantly educating the marketplace about your product or service, content marketing, that's why I love podcasts. You're putting more and more content out there. You're becoming that authority, whether it's nationwide, globally, locally. You're becoming that go-to business, that preferred local business if you're a local business. You're continuing to educate, putting great stuff out there. You're doing things that no one else wants to do. You're making sure that you do not fall back in that trap of, well, let's just lower our prices. You do not get rich by lowering prices. Plain and simple. I can give you case study upon case study upon case study of businesses that have rolled out coupon strategies, tried to just race their price to the bottom, and it never works. Look at Bed Bath & Beyond, for example. Nobody would literally shop there without a 20% off coupon. I remember reading a study. It was like 94% of people would have to have a 20% off coupon. If they didn't, they often would even leave things in the store and leave and come back with a coupon, or go and try and find a coupon online. They wouldn't buy without a coupon. That's not a way to race to the top or to completely differentiate yourself. You've got to look at doing things that no one else is willing to do. Look at doing the things that do not scale. That is why I continue to preach and teach the Dream 100 framework. How many local service companies do you think are executing the Dream 100 framework? Very, very few. They're doing the same stuff that everyone else is doing. They're putting stuff out on Facebook. They're doing Google ads, maybe some radio or TV, and that stuff is fine. And in theory, they're going to elevate their brand because they're going to have more brand awareness and brand recall, and they have that marketing rule of where they're being seen a lot more. But I can tell you that if they were to deploy and execute the Dream 100 framework, that would set them up so much better, because you're able to grab those relationships before everyone else. And when you have the relationship, you continue to work it, continue to market with the relationship, you continue to just nurture that relationship. That will continue to keep you in a league of your own. Stop worrying about everything else that's going on around the economy. Stop worrying about all the external factors. You can keep note of them, but don't let them dictate your pricing strategy all of a sudden. Differentiate by way of your marketing, your storytelling, your content marketing through education, and most importantly, the Dream 100 framework that's built on relationships. These relationships are literally worth their weight in gold. And when you have them, you literally have the keys to the kingdom, because no one else is going to be able to take them as long as you continue to nurture that relationship, take care of the person or people on the other side, and you will continue to have this blue ocean until the end of time. Get out there, take action, make sure you have that blue ocean business. Michael Tazzer signing off. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you next week.